manager here in the Zendesk Community Management team. With me also from Zendesk are two of my intrepid teammates, Devin Laspisa, who is the organizer of the event. So he organizes all of our events. So if an event happens, it's because he made it happen. So thanks, Devin, for that. He's a senior community engagement specialist. And we also have Brett Bowser, who will be in the chat as well. He is another community engagement manager like myself. But that's not what this event is all about. Next slide. There we go. All right, so we've got four of our community moderators who are going to present some of their tips to you. And just real quick to answer a couple of the most commonly asked questions. Yes, we are recording, and you will get an email after the event pointing to the event recording. We will also post the event recording to the community playlist in the Zendesk YouTube channel, so where you can find recordings to all of our previous events, and as well as some recordings from our Community Day event last year. Also, if you have questions here during the event, we encourage you to ask those. You see there's a general chat window going now on the right-hand side. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We always love to hear that, and let us know what the weather is like where you're at. Hello, Philadelphia. But there is a Q&A tab. So if you have a question, please click over to Q&A and ask it there. That helps us track whether we've answered questions or not, and they don't get lost in the endless scroll of chat that's in the general chat. But if you just want to say like, wow, that was great, then the general chat tab is the place to do that. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so Zendesk moderators, what is that? You might not be familiar with that. If you're not familiar, let me tell you about that. So Zendesk moderators are not Zendesk employees. They are community members just like you. They're helpful, they're passionate, they're knowledgeable about Zendesk, and they have signed up to answer questions in our community forums, to participate in events like this, and just help make the community a great and welcoming place for everyone. And in exchange for that, they get some recognition in the community. You'll see under their name, there's a community moderator badge. Anytime they answer a question or post anything, they get some exclusive Zendesk community swag. We have a private Slack channel for our community moderators to communicate with us and the community team and with each other. And they also get a sponsored Zendesk test account so that they can play around and test things out without affecting their production Zendesk account, because that could be awkward. If this sounds like something that you're interested in, there's a link to our Zendesk Community Moderator program, and Devin, if you could pop that link into the chat there. There's more information about the program, and there's a list of all of our active community moderators there. We'll be hearing from 4 of them today, but there's many more, and we're always looking for more. And then there's also a link to our tips, our user supplied tips and tricks topic. All of these moderators have posted tips there, but anybody can post a tip there. If you've got something that you've figured out how to do and you want to share that with the community, that is the place to do that. And next slide whenever you're ready, Devin. All right, so who are the moderators we're going to hear from today? So we've got Andrei Kamarouski. He is the CEO and co-founder at Pythia AI. He's going to be talking about setting up KPI systems. We've got Heather Rommel. She is a support systems analyst at Confluent. She's going to be talking about SLA ticket notifications. Chandra Robrock, support manager at Full Story. She's going to be talking about, Heather's talking about Jira integrations. Chandra's talking about SLA ticket notifications. And Brandon Tidd, Zendesk architect at 729 Solutions. He's going to be talking about managing messaging. So if I confused you at all there, don't worry. They know what they're talking about more than I do even. So they're going to do that. So without further ado, why don't we go ahead and get to our first tip. Andrei, take it away.
Yeah, let me share my screen, and I want to reconfirm you're able to see it.
Yep, we can see that.
Good. Amazing.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm happy to be here today. Some of you remember me from the last Zendesk Community Day. So I was recognized the wise one. So let's prepare for stuff, a little bit fundamental things and some practice there as well. So the topic I'm talking about today is like ideal KPI system or KPI system in general in your Zendesk. So agenda is very clear. So why KPIs matter? The first question, why we need it. So what should be an ideal KPI system? CVQ framework for setting KPIs. I will show you some basic and some advanced KPI models, and we'll see how to do this in Explore, Zendesk Explore. So the first question is why KPIs matter. So everyone know what KPIs as a definition. So simply spoken, we measure the success of customer support by KPIs, and this is a tool and the process that all the time we will make improvements there towards some goals that are predefined or some strategy. So different stakeholders, they have different interests. So executives, they don't have much time, they need just very short and clear numbers, like how we're doing. So managers need KPIs for everyday support operations management tasks, and agents, in order to have a healthy competition and being motivated day to day, hour to hour, they need KPIs as well. So what should be an ideal KPI system? I would say that should be 3 pillars. Yeah, so it should be balanced, it should be transparent, and it should be scalable. So what does it mean with balance? So we should not have too many KPIs, yeah, to have a balance of them. So it should not be like 20 or 30. It should be like pretty comprehensive amount of KPIs, but not too many at the same time. So these KPIs, they should be from different qualitative dimensions of what the customer support process is, like quantitative and qualitative things. And then should balance each other. This is really important as well. In terms of transparency, there should be very clear definitions, like word-to-word outlined, what is this KPI about, or what is this KPI about, how they're defined. So they should be actionable for agents. So that's what agents do day to day. They should understand this has a direct impact on the KPIs that we have. Even if some of them are more of collective nature, they should be very clear that these KPIs depending on individual impact as well. And they should be ideally nice to have, easy to compare across the teams or across individuals. Scoring is really needed there, and I will show you this a bit later. And scalability, yeah. It should be hard to game or hard to cheat from agents. Yeah, this is like a interesting story that sometimes this happens. And again, if your KPI system is balanced, it's scalable, it's hard to game. It's hard to do something, just one thing and be champion at the same time. Should be channels agnostic. Like if we have first reply time, we can count it across different channels in phone support, in chat support, or in other tickets. And it should be aligned with strategy that we have. So it should be long-term at the same time. So after many KPIs, things, reports in the last 10 years done on Zendesk and other people, I have found that framework, like 3 pillars to set the KPIs. Capacity, velocity, and quality. Yeah, this is very clear that capacity, how much or many things we do, activities, velocity, how fast we're doing this, and quality, what is the quality of doing this. Yeah, and this is clear. In order to keep a balance, you need to coordinate these 3 things. Yeah, if you are too fast or you're trying to do too much, the quality might suffer. At the same time, you cannot be enough fast or enough have capacity if you're trying to work too much on each single case. Yeah, so we're always agents and the team, they're balancing around these 3 things in order to achieve the customer support excellence. So by setting KPIs, we should think about these 3 dimensions in order to group these KPIs and analyze them. So basic KPI model that anybody can have in Zendesk pretty easily, like most of these metrics, are on the screen. So we should look into how many solved tickets or public replies agents do have individually or with assistances. So we should check productivity, how many tickets or replies again done per time tracked in Zendesk, how many macros used or knowledge-based articles linked to this. This is also a very important process of involving knowledge. In terms of velocity, it's very clear: first reply time, next reply time, and full resolution time. So these metrics are first two available in SLA's dataset and Explore, and I highly recommend, if you have SLAs, that you use SLAs and you use these metrics, and you will be great analyzing these in business hours or outside of business hours. So quality, very clear: satisfaction, customer satisfaction score, NPS score, or custom QA scores that you might have inside your Zendesk as ticket fields, or you might use other third-party tools to measure it. It's about the quality. Pretty much CSAT and NPS are leading KPIs globally that companies using today, and they are easily trackable in Zendesk as well. A little bit advanced things. So good old spreadsheets. You can see that in order to do something very advanced, sometimes you need a good old Google spreadsheet or Excel. So actually, there is a reason why this is hard to do inside Zendesk Explore. Currently, you have different data sets in Explore, and they are not yet connected. So one of the things that I would really love to see in the future, and I'm pretty sure they will be released soon, that these data sets are connected and we can combine whatever metrics from whatever data sets on different reports. So, but these advanced things means that we just not look at absolute numbers. Yeah, what first reply time or how many solved tickets. Yeah, when we involve 5, 10 or more metrics, it's hard yet to compare and to understand. Yeah, and we need a golden number. Yeah, like one score that could be used. This is exactly this story. The story is that we can assign different scores depending on how people are performing in the ranges. Yeah, like CSAT under 85, it's like 0% of like excellence. Yeah, between 85 and 90, we assign 60%, and so on. Yeah, so it's like scoring scores that assigned against targets that you set as predefined. Let's say, okay, I want for CSAT having 95. Yeah, and this is kind of our goal. Or you can set this against for other metrics or other KPIs. We cannot predict what should be this like normative goal. Yeah, we just say, okay, we'll do this against like group average. Yeah, so this is what I really suggest. So the metrics like productivity or first reply time, you can not just set specific numbers. Yeah, but you also should, because of they are fluctuating all the time, you should compare this against group's average that you have. So then, based on different ranges, assigned scores, we see different weights. Yeah, so this KPI should have that impact, or this KPI that impact in the final score. So these weights should sum up to 100%. This is clear in order to be normalized. And you can see below an example of agents, like agent 1, agent 2, they receive different numbers for KPIs, then scores assigned to them in the middle, and then when we weight them, we have as a result in a sum one single score that we can easily compare and understand how people are performing. You can calculate subscores for different, again, groups of KPIs, capacity, velocity, and quality, and so on, and then aggregate to one final score and see and easily compare agents and groups. So in Explore, practically, as I mentioned, in order to calculate, to aggregate different KPIs, you need to use different reports. So you can see this usually dashboard, the simple version of the dashboard that I'm building for many customers I work with, 3 tables where you see KPIs per assignee from tickets data set, SLAs data set, the second chart per assignee, and the third one about productivity from updates history data set. So let's look into these in a bit more detail. So you can see a very specific screenshot, just you take it and build in your Explorer. So these are the metrics for KPIs per assignee in the ticket, like solved tickets, replied, one-touch rate, satisfaction, and how many rated, and so on. So the next one is also, most of the metrics are predefined, just one custom, and you can see the formula next reply time metric in calendar hours. You can use this formula to build this as part of SLA data set and different kind of reports there. And the last one, productivity, also in fact pretty simple metric when you calculate how many public comments agents left per time tracked in Zendesk. Amazing total time, time tracking app in Zendesk that you should install if you can today and start measuring this productivity. So you see the formula here as well. So these are the 3 reports that you can build easily on your dashboard using this tip. And finally, useful links. So how to set up an ideal KPI system. Use this time tracking app, recipe, amazing thing on. If you want to learn Explore, like it's hard to learn, but if you want to just redo a lot of amazing Explore recipes on Zendesk Community that you can find by third link, and you will be the master. Thank you.
Dave, you are muted.
Thanks, Andrei. Thanks, Devin. Yeah, that was amazing. Awesome. And thanks for posting those links. And Devin or Brett, if we can get those links in the chat here for people to look at now, that'd be awesome as well. And let's move on to our next.
Andrei, if you could stop sharing your screen for just a moment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great. Awesome. Okay, Chandra, let's hear about SLA ticket notifications.
Awesome. Would love to. Would you mind giving me share permissions? Yeah, perfect. Let's see. All right. So I am really excited to talk to you all about this today. This is a tip that I wrote a while back, and it was a really popular one. And I know it's been really helpful for our team. And so just kind of wanted to chat a little bit about this. But basically, SLAs are a great way. I know Andrei had already kind of talked about it a little bit, but I love SLAs from a prioritization. So whenever you filter views, you can see next SLA is kind of how I'm determining what ticket is at the top. And it's based off of when the end user last responded and when we say that we need to respond to them. So whether that is 1 business day response times or anything like that, it just helps ensure that if an end user writes in repeatedly because they want to get support, they are not deprioritizing their ticket in that process, and just really helping us provide a really seamless, predictable experience. But if you do use first response or next response SLAs, sometimes you will find some tickets that do not have an SLA at the bottom. And this is kind of the solution that I wanted to walk through today. So if we click into the actual ticket, we can kind of see the why it happened. So there's this end user that reached out. It's a public comment. An agent kind of responded, public comment again. So that ticket had an SLA. That one satisfied it. But then when they write back in again, it's an internal note. So that looks a little bit interesting just because it is an end user and it's coming in as an internal note. But if you see this down here, Zendesk is essentially flagging this. They're saying that this person is writing in from an email that does not match the requester that is over here. And so just proceed with caution. I see this a lot whenever someone is writing in from within their account and it has one email address, but then when they respond, it's from their email alias, or maybe it was a CC'd individual and they drop the requester. Anything like that can kind of trigger this to happen. And because SLAs are looking for that public comment from an end user, this is not triggering that SLA. So if we go back to this magical demo queue land where there are only 4 tickets, I imagine you all have a lot more tickets than that. It's not that big of a deal because we can kind of see it in here. But what if this queue was 4 pages deep? This ticket would be at the very back of that queue, kind of indefinitely. Of course, you can train your agents to actually look for those tickets, but especially whenever it's your growing team or it's just a really busy queue, it's still really easy for those tickets to get stuck and kind of unattended for, and it can lead to frustration, which you can kind of tell from the subject of this line. So this was kind of a solution that I figured out because I was trying to figure out a way to identify this ticket. It was really easy to find the tickets based off of the ones that had an SLA, but it was really hard just to filter for this one. So I'm gonna kind of walk through how I built something with automations and triggers. It's 3 steps. The first one is we need something to identify, differentiate basically the tickets that have an SLA and the ones that don't. And then we're going to send an actual notification with an automation, and then we're going to build a trigger that allows us to run this entire workflow all over again. So we're going to jump in to the admin center. And the first one I actually did build just for the purposes of making this demo a little bit easier, because if you know about automations, they're all time-based and they fire once an hour. So I wanted to make sure that you all could kind of get a sense of what this would look like once built. So again, the first step is to build an automation that allows us to identify what tickets have an active SLA. So for this, I just built it based off of the group of support. We had 2 different groups in here, and so I just wanted to filter this by the support group. You might not need this criteria, or it might look different, but I wanted to highlight this because a lot of times triggers and automations are very dependent based off of groups. Then I'm looking for tickets that have a next SLA breach that is greater than 1. Again, this is really just to find those tickets that have an SLA so I can differentiate them in my next automation. Then over here, you're going to see this tags contains none of the following active SLA ticket. That is because the actions, I am adding that tag. So when it comes to automations, you have to have something that nullifies it so it doesn't run continuously. So if I would actually try to remove this right now, you'll see that Zendesk will actually throw you an error and say that's not possible. So a lot of times when I'm building automations, tags are a really great way to kind of have that nullifying action. So it looks for this ticket doesn't have that tag, we're adding that tag, and that again prevents it from firing multiple times on that same ticket. Then we're going to go back to, actually we'll click into here. So if we go here, there's an SLA. And so we're going to see that that tag is present because that has an SLA on the ticket. So we know that that is working. And if we go here, the one that doesn't have an SLA does not have that tag. So now we can actually differentiate in the next step just these stuck tickets so we can build a notification. So this one I'm going to build live. So I would just like call it ticket stuck notification. Again, for my purposes, I wanted to filter this by the support group, so I'm going to add that criteria. I'm going to specifically want to target those tags that do those tickets that do not have the active SLA ticket tag. So we're going to do that. I also want to only check for it in a status that is less than pending. I don't want this to fire for I only want this to fire for new and open tickets. I don't want pending, on hold, solved, or anything like that. So that's also the criteria we need. And then for these tickets, the best gauge, it's not a perfect gauge, but the best gauge is actually to filter based off of hours since update. So this isn't perfect by any means because, you know, an agent could leave an internal comment. And so it's not a true reflection of the last time that the end user did leave that comment, but it has worked well enough because, again, usually these tickets are stuck at the back of the queue and we just haven't seen them or taken action on them, but it's a good way to do it. So let's say we'll change this to business hours and we'll say like we have next response times of like 12 business hours. Maybe we would want this notification to fire at 10. So I'll build it that way. And I think that is it for the criteria. So now we'll move on to the actual notification. So the actual action that you can do with this can look different. for us at Full Story, we use Slack a lot. And so I actually have a Slack notification that goes off for these. And so that's what I'm going to actually build here. We use webhooks, and it's just a Slack that goes to the channel. And then you'll have some JSON, which I won't let you all watch me type all of that. But basically it pulls in some custom ticket fields, and it also just sends a message that's this ticket looks stuck. Can someone take a look at it? Just so we can kind of take some action on it. But you could do a lot of different things with this. So you could notify the assignee, you could notify a group of managers, you could do whatever you want with it and put it in a different view, anything like that. So this works really well for us. And that's basically how I had built this in our own instance, but it could look different for you. And then lastly, we again need that nullifying action. And so again, similar to the other one, I am going to use a tag. So the other action here will be to add a tag. I'm going to do ticket stuck notification sent. And then I'm going to copy that and put it back into here, because again, that will allow this to only fire once and not repeatedly. So then we're going to create that automation. Whoops, I forgot something. Let's see. Let me see. I swear I got everything.
Hey, Chandra, your tag first, the nullification is in the contains one of, not contains none of.
Yep, that's it. Thank you. Knew I was bound to mess something up live.
Yeah, the active ticket SLA one was just filtering on whether or not there was an automation or whether there was an active ticket. Yeah.
Sorry, repeat the question.
So it was from the chat. The active SLA ticket. We want to make sure that does have it or does not have active SLA.
Yeah, so it contains none of the following is here. So we only want this to fire on the tickets that do not have an SLA. And so that's what that's looking for. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, both of those were fine, but yep. Live demos are always fun. So if we go here, I actually had set this up a little while ago, but you can kind of see that the ticket stuck notification sent is there. So it is sending on that one. But again, since we built it correctly this time, since this one had an active SLA ticket, no notification was sent on that one. So then the last step is basically, I want this to run again. So if this person were to reach out again, if their ticket got stuck again, I would want to send a new notification for that next comment. And kind of similar to any of these that have an actual active SLA, I want to make sure that their next response, whatever state they end in, we can kind of do the workflow all over again. So what I do for this, and I do this for a lot of my automations and triggers, is I will do a trigger that basically removes those tags after something happens. So for this one, I'm not going to mess this one up, I promise y'all. So we're going to remove tags. I'm just going to put it in the test category group because it's my demo account. And I'm going to get this one right. So I'm going to look for tickets that have either the active SLA ticket tag or the ticket stuck notification. And then I'm going to look for a comment being left on there that is public. And I want that comment to be made by the agent. So that would technically satisfy that next response, first response SLA, had it had one. And so then down here, I'm going to remove tags, and I am again going to look for those tags. So if we go back here, we will send a public response. And now that one is removed. So then when that happens again, you can go all over again. So that's been really helpful for us. I know it was a lot. There's the user tip that has a lot of information, and I promise the steps are right on that one. But hopefully that's helpful. If you have any further questions, definitely let me know on that. And yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Chandra. And next up, we have Brandon Tidd talking about managing messaging. Take it away, Brandon.
Yeah, so we're talking managing today, and that is going to be the new Zendesk product about messaging that allows you to meet customers where they are and engage with them intelligently. So in this brief demo, we're going to talk about the difference between the legacy Zendesk chat product versus the new messaging product, how to go with the flow and enable the messaging and enable Flow Builder and actually build out a sample flow here. And then we're going to see it in action on our demo site. So taking a step back and looking at the legacy chat product, for those of you who've been around a while, you know that it wasn't always as deeply integrated with the agent workspace and Zendesk support as it is now. So live chat was kind of off on its own little product. You'd have that chat session, and then it would become a ticket after the chat session ended. And if you had an answer bot, that was also a separately removed section where you would have the answer bot would have its conversation, the agent on the chat would have their live conversation, and then it would eventually become a ticket. Whereas we have a much more integrated solution in Zendesk messaging now, that Flow Builder and your automated conversation with the answer bot is much more intelligently designed. It dovetails directly into live messaging with the which is a very similar experience to chat in the agent workspace now, but all of that information, including parts and pieces of the conversation with the answer bot, are now encaptured into the ticket, and that ticket is created at the start of the live messaging conversation, not at the end of it. So a couple of key differences there. So we're talking, there are a couple of prerequisites that are required for you to be able to take advantage of this. It does require that you have either the Zendesk Suite or at least chat at the team level or greater. It does require you to enable Agent Workspace, which if you haven't done that yet, I would encourage you to look at some of the documentation there. It's a really cool upgrade that's available for all accounts, as well as at least one chat-enabled agent that is required. And then Zendesk also recommends an active public help center with at least 10 articles that cover commonly asked questions. And if you want to use the answer bot to deflect into self-service, that is a required piece to have that public-facing help center content, as well as adding the messaging widget to your help center, which we'll talk about how you do that as well. And so all of this information, again, the slides are going to be shared, and this information is all included in the user tip that we've posted on the community. So don't feel the need to scramble and try to write all this down or screenshot it. But if you have created your Zendesk account after November 2nd, 2021, your messaging is already enabled by default. If you were using the classic web widget, or if you had an account created prior to November 2nd, you do need to go into your new admin center, and under the messaging and social, give you the ability to enable messaging. We're actually going to show that here on our demo account. And then you also have to activate the bot enable. By default, it's just a very similar experience to what you saw with AnswerBot, but you have the ability to upgrade that experience as well with the new Flow Builder. And then you do have some additional routing options with messaging in terms of routing to agent groups and assignment of new inbound messages as they come in for your live channels. So to actually build a flow, we get into the product, and once we've enabled everything, that's going to be under your admin center under bots. We're going to say add a bot, and you're going to name your bot for internal purposes, and then choose the brand. If you're on multiple brands, you can choose the brand that bot is associated with. Allow yourself to update your language and add the steps of the bot to give your bot its voice. And then some of the deflection points within messaging that you're going to see are adding business hours, adding messaging, presenting options, presenting articles, and then transferring to that live agent. All flows must be completed to publish it, so you can't leave a path unfinished. And the key to look for the finished path is you're going to transfer to an agent, or the bot is going to ask, hey, was this helpful? That is a successful resolution of a path. And then we're going to test an end user as an end user in incognito mode. So this is all things that you can do and all things that we're going to walk through live in the demo. But one of the questions that I frequently get asked when we are talking about testing the Zendesk Messenger is, well, when does the conversation reset? One of the benefits is we're going to have that continuous conversation. So if the end user closes their browser and comes back to the conversation later, we can pick up that talk right where we left off. But let's say that end user wants to start a new request and wants to go back into self-service and deflection. When you close the ticket, when you move the ticket to a status of closed, or after 72 hours of no engagement from the end user, that's when that conversation is going to reset. We can trick the bot by opening a window in incognito mode, which makes it forget who you are, and then you can kind of reset that process. But by design, the system is designed to allow you to not only continue that conversation within your web widget, your messaging widget, but also take that conversation where your customers already are. Maybe they're in WhatsApp or Android or iOS or Facebook Messenger. As the product continues to evolve, you're going to see more and more channels come online that allow you to interact with customers in a way that doesn't require them to come all the way over to your website, find your web widget, and engage with you there. And so let's see it in action. We have a very not real company here called 729 Flight School. And that company is built, and you can actually go to this now. We're going to include that link, the 729flightschool.zendesk.com. And this is going to allow you to be on the back end of the site to see what, or on the front end rather, to interact with the bot. And you can go ahead and interact with the bot. It's my dev submit a ticket or asked to talk to an agent. You can fill it out and play around with it. It is purpose-built. Experience AnswerBot and see what the experience for an end user. So before we get into, we're going to take a step back, enable the messaging, and show you what this looks like from the ground. So I've got my Zendesk community developed. We don't have messaging enabled. So the first thing I'm going to do is, once this loads, I'm going to go into my admin center. If you're not familiar with going into the admin center, that's going to be by clicking on this. I call it the cloverleaf menu. I don't know what its official name is, but it's these 4 boxes here. And when you click on the 4 boxes, you can go down to your admin center.
Brandon, I don't think you're sharing your screen just yet. So you might need to go ahead and enable that.
Let's try now.
We're cooking with gas. Let's do it.
All right. So if we come over here to my channels and messaging, see it is not enabled. So I'm going to go to manage my settings. Started. And this is my checkbox that allows me to enable messaging for my account. So that'll take about 30 seconds to do its thing and navigate around and turn it on. And when it comes back to me, it's going to have messaging enabled on the account. And this does have a little bit of an impact if you're using the web widget, if you're using the live chat channels. This does start to influence some of those experiences. So please make sure that you're doing this maybe outside of normal business hours or in the sandbox to ensure that you are not confusing your agents. And so once we get that enabled, my internet's having a little bit of issues here. Gotta love the live demos. But we're going to go ahead and talk about building that bot experience. So what I'm going to come to my bots now that messaging is enabled. I do have bots, and I love the little search bar. If you're not familiar with where things are in the admin center, using the search bar and just typing whatever you're looking for, be it groups, triggers, automations, the fastest way to achieve that is by going and just searching there. And so once I get to my bots, I can see that I have my demo bot and I have the ability to edit in the flow builder. So when I edit this in the flow builder, it's going to give me a basic flow. So it's going to say, and I can click on these and see how they're configured, or if I want to see what it looks like for the end user, I can click on preview. And that's going to give me the ability to search and set this up. So I can add steps here. And this is where I can either show Help Center articles, present options to the end user, send messages, or transfer to an agent. And then you have a business hours condition there as well. So if we look at what this looks like on the 729 flight school side, so I have my initial message that goes out to the end users, and I've crafted this here, and you can see what this looks like. And so now I've got the present options. So I say, this is going to be my options. I'm a prospective student or I'm a current student. And then I can kind of see where that flow builds, that if I am a prospective student, I have a few articles that might be helpful based on my end user's experience. So I can see that these are the articles that might be helpful. And then if these articles don't help, you can ask the answer about something else or continue down the path. And so we've got all of those flows built. This flow is a go, as we say. So you can see now that we can either have transfers or asking, was this helpful at the end of every stage? And now we're ready for this. So if we come over here and incognito mode, in just a second. This is our flight school experience, and this is a fully built help center, so you can click around. There's articles that are built in, and once the page fully loads, we'll see our little widget appear in the lower right-hand corner. And it's saying, hey, do you need any help? I do. So I'm going to open that widget. And this can be on your website, help center. Now the experience, if I'm a current student, it's going to say, okay, how can we help you? And I say, I want to maybe update my billing information. So you're getting more information, this end user's request, by giving them direction on where they are going and what they need help with. So it says you probably shouldn't trust a bot to that. And so I would say, no, so give us a call. So no, I still need help. And I'm just going to start over this flow because I want to get you, the last thing we're going to do today in the 2 minutes that we have left is to transfer to an agent so you can see what the experience looks like. So those articles aren't helping, but I can see the preview of the articles. And I'm going to say, teach me to fly. And so our autopilot comes back and says, I'm an autopilot, not a flight instructor. Go ahead and give me your contact information. So I am Brandon. And the nice thing is here, you can actually pull in some ticket fields in addition to your name and email. And obviously if they're authenticated, you won't need to type this information in because the bot will know who they are. Enter my email address. And it's going to ask me the best number to reach me. And that is not my actual phone number. I'm going to go ahead and submit that request. And now if I was online, I could see that conversation with a live agent. And I close out of this window, I have to start over. So if I just happen to come in and accidentally shoot, I closed out of right back to it, start over because the bot I'm still within the same incognito window. And so when that bot loads, it's going to back to that same point. So I don't have to start over. And my back end of Zendesk, not only do I have the opportunity to engage with that user, but I'm also going to get some of the information back from the, I swear I had all these windows loaded, guys. I'm going to get all the information that the end user populated. So flow builder conversation is going to be included in that ticket. So with that, I know we're running time, so I'm going to turn things over to Heather. But messaging is awesome, and I am able to take advantage of it.
I just have to say, I love that fake website. It's going to be the highlight of my day.
Yeah, and there was a question about that, and that website is available anytime. So, it'll be available after the event too, right?
Yes, yeah, that is our demo site.
All right, all right. Last but not least, Heather Rommel. Let's talk about the Jira integration.
Oh, real quick, Brendan, I think you need to stop sharing your screen too.
Oh yeah.
Are you able to see my screen?
No, I think because Brendan is sharing his screen, which I can fix real quick. There we go.
I'm just on my title screen. Is that working?
Go ahead and try to share yours now, Heather. It should work.
How's that?
We're looking great.
Okay. I am super excited to talk to you about Jira and Zendesk and the integration between the two. As most people in different organizations, they're not going to necessarily just be using Zendesk for everything, especially when you have a development team, engineering, product managers, etc. A lot of them use Jira. So I'm going to show you how to level up on your Jira Zendesk integration. So basically, I've put a tip together, and these are the steps. The right-hand panel is really about behavior. So it's just the first two panels that you need to worry about. I'm going to go ahead and assume that you've already installed the Jira app that you've already installed the Jira app on both Zendesk and Jira. And I'm also going to assume that you created the field sync webhook in Jira, but the user tip does have the screenshots on how to do that second one. So basically, what you're going to need to do is you're going to create an API key in Zendesk. You're going to go ahead and create a target for private comments. By the way, you should use that target for a lot of stuff. It is a lifesaver to be able to automate a way to post a private comment on a ticket for any reason. I just happen to be using it in this Jira Zendesk integration. Now, the hard work is customizing and making Jira talk to Zendesk. So the idea is a lot of times when you have this integration set up, you can see the Jira ticket on the right-hand panel in your Zendesk screen, but you don't get alerted as to where that Jira status is, what that Jira status is in. So I'm going to show you how to customize that. So we're going to create a custom drop-down field in Zendesk. We're going to add a field mapping in the Jira side. We're going to add a Zendesk trigger to look for certain statuses and changes to that custom field. And then we're going to post a private message and reopen that Zendesk ticket. Now, the one thing that I want you guys to think about before you do this is you're going to want to look at your Jira workflows for the projects in Jira that you're going to want to integrate and really take a look at what status means something that you can intelligently give the support engineer to tell the customer what the status is. So for example, I've seen a lot of companies use the term done in Jira, which is fantastic, but sometimes done doesn't mean released. So you're going to need to have those conversations throughout this process or before you deploy this process. And the idea is instead of solving your Zendesk ticket out and telling a customer, hey, watch for our release notes, instead, you're going to actually put the Zendesk ticket on hold, let the customer know it's been escalated to engineering. And then when engineering is done putting that bug fix out or the enhancement out, it'll go ahead and reopen that Zendesk ticket, tell the assignee to go ahead and communicate to the customer, and they can intelligently do so. So the customer will know as soon as that bug fix is out or as soon as that release is done. The caveat is your engineering and PM teams will need to keep the Jira tickets up to date. So this is what I meant when I said, look, on the left, I've taken a screenshot of this Jira workflow that I'm going to hook up to Zendesk. I've seen people use the one that's out of the box, but then usually that falls short of what you actually need. So you'll end up having a workflow that looks a little bit more like this, that there's some sort of approval process, a dev process, a UAT process, maybe even a waiting for release process status, so that when you put it to done, done means release. On the right, you'll see a screenshot. I've created a Zendesk custom field. It's a single select dropdown, not available to end users, not required on Solve. And I've mapped it to the Jira workflow. You can map this to several Jira workflows. It's just going to be a longer list. Once you've created your custom field in Zendesk, in Jira, so you need to be an admin on Jira, you will go to the field mapping section of the Jira app, and you will go ahead and select on the left side, you'll select the Jira status, and then let it know that the direction is to Zendesk. It's not a bi-directional sync. You do not want your Zendesk agents influencing the status of your Jira tickets. Not a good idea. And then you're going to go ahead and select that custom field that you've created in Zendesk. Now, here's a screenshot of the private comment webhook, which again, you can use for anything, not just this integration. So basically what you do is you create a Zendesk API so that you're not using your password. Go ahead and create a new API token, then head over to the Admin Center webhook section, create a webhook. I have given you exact instructions that you could just copy and paste from if you'd like. Remember that the user that you put into that basic authentication, you're going to use their email. So in this case, I use mine, but I suggest a service account, because when the systems talk to one another or when a private comment is posted, you want it to use the service account name so that it doesn't look like it's coming from Heather. So use your service account /token, then grab your API token that you created over here and drop it in there as a password. Easy. When you're done with that, you're going to create a trigger in Zendesk. And now this is the part where you need to think about which status in your Jira status is going to reopen that Zendesk ticket where you want to communicate. In my example, I'm using ready for release and done. I think my user tip specifically focuses in on just done, assuming that that is released. But you could do this for any Jira status if you choose to do so. It seems a little bit chatty to me, but it's up to you. Basically, you're looking for the ticket to be updated, the Jira status to be done. And as Chandra pointed out, you're going to need a nullifying tag. So this way, this doesn't keep firing on the same ticket every time the ticket gets updated and the Jira status is in done and hasn't changed. So you need a nullifier. So I've used release_notify. And in your actions at the bottom of this trigger, you're going to move that ticket status to open, add that tag that nullifies, released_notify, or whatever you choose. And then you're going to notify that webhook you just created with your API and webhook. And this is where you can use this in any trigger. I've given you this code in my user tips. You could just copy and paste. Feel free to update whatever the wording is that you prefer. Here I've said, dev release, please update the customer as needed. Whatever you want to put in this situation, you're more than welcome to plug in your custom text. This is going to do a private comment, so that's why it says public false. So at this point, believe it or not, you'd be ready to test. So let me just drop out of here and show you live, since my cohorts have done the same, although I'm not going to build a trigger live. That's too risky. Good job, Chandra. So here's my Jira board. Many of you are probably really familiar with how boards look. Jira, you could create a board to do anything you want, but underneath that board is the workflow. So What I've done is I've taken every status and created a column that may or may not be the case for you. So I'm going to take this feature request, which wasn't getting approval, and I'm going to pretend I'm approving it. I'm going to move it straight into done because in this case, I'm just going to show you what that looks like. That's my dev 2. I probably should actually show you what this looks like in Zendesk before I show you what it does there. So give me a second. So back up a second. A Zendesk ticket comes out and asks for a feature request. I created a macro for doing this when we don't have a feature that's available in our product that the customer asks for. You might want to do the same. And basically what it does is it automates submitting it as on hold. Here's the request response that I'm using. This is a public response to the end user. And as Chandra was pointing out, this is my SLA. When I reply, it's going to get rid of that SLA. I did this a little out of order because I should have created the Jira first. So we're going to do that now. Here's the app. I put the links in my user tip. I'm going to tell development, you can have multiple projects here, but I suggest you restrict it to just 1 or 2 projects because support engineers are way too busy to remember which project in Jira to choose. So I'm going to leave the assignee as is. What's really neat about this app is I could just click copy fields from Zendesk and, of course, I made the comment before I did the ticket. So I'm going to have to alter that. It grabs the last comment in the ticket. I'm going to create that Jira ticket. Over here is my link to Jira. So let me show it from there. That was Dev 12. And here it is on my board. It drops into the to-do column if you do not have your backlog activated. So you might need to look in, if you have a backlog link over here, it might have dropped over there. So depending on your processes and your grooming for Agile, it may not show on your board. So you might want a specific board to just look for these. So let's say this is going through scoping, in progress. And let me show you what's happening over here. Here's my Jira status. Every time I moved it, it's changing the Jira status, but I'm not actioning on it with our trigger until it hits done because that's the only status we care about. Sorry, I have too many things open. All right, it's been tested. Let me just drop it in done. And find the right tab. All of a sudden, you'll see the Jira status got updated to done. This is our custom field that we created and dropped on the forms. And look at this. Private comment is posted. Submission is in open status. So this will show in your agent's views. You could have an SLA that's looking for next response time and things like that so that it will drop into the into your queue the way that Chandra showed you from the SLA at the top, the shortest SLA at the top. Hopefully the assignee on that ticket, they're going to get a notification. So they'll know and they don't have to rely on the queues necessarily. The other thing that's neat about this integration is because it adds a tag to all tickets that have a Jira attached to it, you can actually create a queue just for these tickets. So you can look at a glance because you're syncing all the statuses over to Zendesk. You can see at a glance which tickets are in what status. So I could see these. This isn't to do, so these haven't been touched yet. These 3 are in development. So this integration is truly very powerful. And so it just takes a little bit of planning, some behavior changes. Again, Jira has to be kept up to date, and your support systems people need to stick those tickets on hold so that they can wait for an update from the Jira integration. And that is what I have. I took screenshots and it's in the user tip as well. Back to you, Devin.
Amazing. Thanks, Heather, and thanks, everybody. Devin, you want to share the original deck again? We'll get back up. Thank you so much, Brandon, Chandra, Andrei, and Heather. Those were amazing tips, so useful. And just before we close things out here, we're just about at time. We've got a couple of events that we want to let you know about. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So Well, just generally speaking, we've got Zendesk training, we've got training, we've got certifications and things like that. We want to encourage you to check those out. You can learn more about how to use Zendesk, and you get those certifications. You can put that on your LinkedIn and things like that, and help grow your career that way as a Zendesk administrator. And then also want to let you know about our next community event. So on Thursday, May 19th, we're going to be talking about some new updates in Zendesk messaging. So leverage some of that stuff that Brandon was talking about here today. So once again, thanks everybody for joining us. We had a big turnout here, a lot of great questions. And thanks again to Heather and Andrei and Chandra and Brandon. Thanks to Devin and Brett in the chat as well. And we'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your day, and watch your email for the link to the recording, and check us out on YouTube. Thanks, everybody.